Well, greetings and welcome to another episode of A Missouri Minute here on Lake Sakakawea. Isn't that fun to say? Sakakawea. 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 This is Lake Sakakawea, and somewhere in Lake Sakakawea is the Missouri River, coursing its way through onward to the Garrison Dam at the other end, at the south end, I guess you could say, or the east end of Lake Sakakawea. So, I am adrift in a bay on Lake Sakakawea with this lovely backdrop here. Isn't that beautiful, this lovely backdrop? This backdrop here is the backdrop. Yes. Oh, let's see. Let me give it something to talk about. Well, I'll tell you what. I've seen about 100 of these backdrops like this today and yesterday and the other 4 days that I was on this lake. And they're all incredibly beautiful. These little bays are just fantastic little spots. There's nothing going on here other than a few cows. I've seen no people on the shoreline here. None whatsoever. Zero. See that? That's how many I've seen. Hawks up here, cows. Well, there's no cows here, but I have seen a lot of cows today, and most of them were black as well, which is kind of interesting, I guess. I don't know what kind of cows are black cows, but not being too much of a cow analyst. How about that? Hi, Rod Wellington, and I analyze cows. See, I don't do that. I just float by beautiful backdrops like this. Today I've got a little easy wind here. Earlier it was kicking up good, and I had to cross some bays that were about 2 miles wide, and I had a big wind coming from the side, which was pushing the waves into the side like that. That was a chore, let me tell you. I am glad that it's mellowed out a bit here, and I'm able to just drift around in this beautiful bay with this lovely backdrop over here. And this isn't such a bad place to be right now. It's fairly warm out here. I'm going to guess that it's in the upper 60s. It's a little cooler than what it's been. It's, you know, there's been a lot of 80s and 90s and into the hundreds over the last couple weeks. But today it's been cool, and last night it was see your breath cool, I'll tell you. It was cold. And arriving at the campsite last night, which was just a pretty primitive campsite at that, with some cows, I had a lot of wet clothes on. Because yesterday, I'll get to that in a minute, but last night I had these wet clothes, and I had to make camp and then get out of the wet clothes and into some dry clothes. That was nice. And then today I had to put all those wet clothes back on this morning in see your breath coolness of the morning as the sun rose over Lake Sakakawea, and lovely backdrops like, well, I guess it's over here now, isn't it? Lovely. But my whole point in this is that yesterday was very windy on Lake Sakakawea, and it was also one of the most challenging paddling days that I've ever had. And that, I tell you folks, is no joke. It was seriously difficult. I made good mileage, 28 miles yesterday and 29 the day before that. So shooting for 30 miles a day, I'm not too far off my marker there. But yesterday was just swells up to here, some swells that, oh, you can't see that, swells up to there, and swells that I couldn't see over at times, which was scary. And I tell you, I was, well, scared. And that was something else. Just the bow of the boat diving into these waves, and the back going up. I had water in my pants, and I mean that in the best way. But it was in my kayak pants. There was actually water from Lake Sakakawea, which is very close to lovely backdrops like this one over here. And the water was actually moving from my heels to my arse, and then back, and like this, back and forth. You understand? And it was just sloshing back and forth because I was riding the waves, and as it come down the wave, it would all run to my feet, and then it'd go up the next wave, and it would all come back to my arse. And it was less than enjoyable to be in pants full of water that was sloshing around. And when I took the spray skirt off, which yesterday I didn't have the suspenders for the spray skirt because I couldn't find the suspenders, but I found them last night, which is joyful. This little area down here was sitting full of water, and the water was actually draining into the boat. So a couple times I had to get to shore and bail out the boat, and literally for a minute with the pump bail it out. There must have been 3 inches of water in the boat, and I'm sure that weighs quite a bit. I don't know how much Lake Sakakawea, I'm not going to do the backdrop thing this time, with the water from Lake Sakakawea. I guess it doesn't probably weigh any more than anywhere else. And actually the water's pretty clear here, so you can't really figure in like a sediment value to that too, you know. But anyways, I probably had 40 pounds worth of water in here, and I'm dealing with these waves, and I'm paddling forth with my paddle, and getting places, making progress, but it was very, very challenging. The wind was pushing me into shore, and I was pushing myself away from shore and into the waves, and it was just a big muscular activity for the better part of about 6 hours, I guess. Now, what was interesting was yesterday morning, the lake was completely calm when I started. Incredibly glass smooth. See yourself in Lake Sakakawea. You're waiting for the backdrop thing, aren't you? Okay. With lovely backdrops like this. And it was incredibly smooth. Whew. Man, if it was ice, it would just be like, well, ice is usually pretty smooth, isn't it? Anyways, it was smooth, and it was just a pleasure to paddle on for about 3 hours. Till about, I guess I started at, well, I guess it was around, yes, it was around 9 o'clock in the morning. And until noon. And then noon, something happened. Some kind of card game was lost somewhere in the universe, and all of a sudden, this foul, well, it didn't really smell foul, but it was just this wind came up, and I don't know where that wind came from, but it came forth, and it came onto Lake Sakakawea, and the clouds came over, and it was just the day just took a downturn, if you will, and it was just very difficult for the next 6 hours. Finally, by 6 o'clock, I had had enough of it and made camp in a little sheltered cove. It wasn't very sheltered because the wind was actually coming from a different direction. And I don't know how wind does that. Like, was there 2 card games involved where this wind god over here lost, and then this wind god over here lost at the same time too? And they just threw down their cards, and this violent wind came forth from both hands of cards, and 2 directions of wind came upon Lake Sakakawea, because that's what was doing. That's what happened. I tell you, that's what was going on. And the funny thing is that this morning it was doing the same thing, although not as windy as it was at 6 o'clock yesterday. But this morning it was, I can't believe it. There was actually, the wind was blowing from that direction, and it was blowing from that direction as well at the same time, and I can't understand how that happens. So I had kind of a tailwind as I was going along Lake Sakakawea's shoreline this morning, and then when I got to this large bay that I had to cross, this other wind, seriously another wind at the same time, came out of this bay, and I had waves that were going every which way except the way that I needed them to go. that is very frustrating. Lake Sakakawea, of all the lakes that I've been on so far during this expedition, has been the most difficult and the most frustrating lake so far. And I've been on a lot of lakes too, but I'll tell you something really special about this lake. It has see, that backdrop doesn't look all that great anymore, does it? Well, that one over there is pretty good. It has backdrops like this. Sun-dappled backdrops. And it has a nice muddy clay shoreline, which if you step into this, you will pretty much disappear. But it is beautiful. And the water's pretty clear too. Well, that's going to be enough for today, I should think. This has been another episode of 11 Missouri Minutes. But it's still called a Missouri Minute. Choo!